Michael Patrick Flanagan, the outgoing state superintendent of schools, he's had that job since 2005, would tell you, and you wouldn't probably believe this, but there are some people, some young people who go to our schools, and the only meal they get is the one they get at school. That's true, isn't it, Soup?
That is true, Michael Patrick. But by the way, did you say that I'm one of these battered elements in Lansing? I wasn't quite sure in that intro.
They're not restoring you like they are the Capitol. They're just putting you out to pasture, as I understand it. First of all, congratulations on your retirement. I know you're going into the grandpa business, as I understand it, and that's a full-time job, too.
I am going. Ann and I are going to take care of them to some degree. We're looking forward to it. We've got suddenly 5 grandkids under 5, so it's looking like a lot of fun. It's time to go. 10 years has been a great run. I'm going to miss the people I work with. So it's kind of bittersweet, but short of that, I'm ready, and we're feeling pretty good as a Michigan Department of Ed team. I mean, graduation rates are up, 3rd grade reading is up. We put in the high school graduation requirements for the first time in history. For 100 years, all you needed was civics. So I really feel there's some kids that are engineers today that wouldn't have been because they wouldn't have been exposed to algebra and some of those things that are required now.
You were the very first state superintendent in the United States to have been awarded with the Distinguished Service Award from the National Association of State Boards of Education. Was that one of the highlights of your career in this job?
It really was, partly because the state board nominated me. One of the things I've said to Brian, my successor, and a lot of other people have said to me over the years is in some ways I can say this now since I've only got a few weeks, it is one of the hardest jobs. It's because you've got a governor, a legislature, a state board. You've got mostly the kids. And then, recently Bridge asked me to write an article, and I wrote one supporting teachers because these 100,000 teachers work their tails off. The system has some problems, with the zigzagging of legislation and stuff, but the teachers are just heroes of mine. So, I appreciated that award because the board nominated me for it, so that was a biggie.
You tell us your career path. I know it was Notre Dame and Eastern Michigan University. Did you start as a teacher?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was a grad teaching assistant at Eastern. Speaking of Eastern, and one of the profs got a heart attack. He survived, but at any rate, the department head came into me, and I've been doing some undergrad teaching, and he said, "You're going to have to take over one of his courses. Can you do that?" And I did, and I went in and took lectured basically at a course for grad students, and these grad students turned out to be mostly principals, some teachers, and here I was, a neophyte. Bottom line, at the end of the time, I did just enough to stay ahead of the lesson plan each time, and finally they said to me, I went in and told the department head, he's gone now, so I can turn him in a little bit, and said that, now I won't have to take the course. I took it. He said, "You didn't take the course?" And he panicked and said, "Don't ever tell anyone." So the next semester, I had to take the course.
After you taught it?
Right.
Yeah, well, that's a classic right there. Totally classic. That's perfect. You were quoted as saying nobody grows up wanting to be a superintendent. Did you?
No. I really at the time, actually, I thought I was going to stay in higher ed, and things happen. And, it's funny, when a lot of people, including Brian, talked to me about this position, in the last 6 months or so, one of the things I found myself saying to them is really check in your head, do you want to do something or do you want to be something? If you just want to be something, this isn't the job. But if you really want to try to accomplish something for the kids in the state, you really have a great opportunity here to work with great people. Both governors I've worked with, I have high regard for. They're different, in some ways, but both are very, very decent people. So it's been a great privilege, but no, you don't grow up wanting to be one. It's, as I said, I'm willing to say this now because it doesn't sound too self-serving, but it's the toughest job I've ever had. I mean, I was a local superintendent 20 years ago. I was the county superintendent in Wayne County after that. But this is unique. I've enjoyed the relationships here in Lansing, and certainly folks like you in the media. I think you have a great personality, and you bring some things out to the public that don't come out through some of the, let's say, tougher interviews. You have a way of getting it in a kind of a friendly way, and it's always appreciated.
Well, you being accessible is absolutely fantastic because there are people who shy away from controversy, and you never have. I don't know what your successor, Brian Whitson, will be like, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. And I do want to let you, before we stop for just a minute on the break here, underscore what you're saying about the challenges that teachers face. Is it harder than ever for them to merely keep the attention of students?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tweeted something. I've been doing that for the last few years, that the attention span of a I think it's a chipmunk, is 9 seconds, and a student is like 8 seconds, something like that. So think about that. My daughter's a teacher, and picture, 150 kids a day in a high school setting. Folks who think this is an easy job, just think of babysitting if that's all you had to do, a group of kindergartners. Not to mention actually have them learn to read by the end, or start reading by the end of kindergarten. So, and I think some of the reforms, I would say most are well-intentioned, but the zigzagging of reforms really have left teachers feeling kind of demoralized. And one reason I wrote the article to say I very much appreciate what they do every day.